Blog Talk Radio.
Archangels, ghosts, and Bigfoot, oh my. It's just another night for Supernatural Girlz. Real stories, real answers to life's biggest supernatural mysteries. And now for another exciting interview with paranormal experts from this world and others. Here are your supernatural hosts, Patricia Baker and Becky Andreasson. Supernatural Girlz.
Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Supernatural Girlz. I am here with my co-host, Becky Andreasson. How are you, Becky?
Hi, Patricia. How are you tonight?
I am doing fine, but I'm already hearing an echo.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so you know what? You know the drill. We're going to have to hang up. Everybody, including our fabulous guest that I can't wait to talk to, Don Webb.
Yes.
And we're going to all have to call back in to get rid of this echo. So stay tuned, everybody. Sorry for this inconvenience, but just keep listening. We're going to be back in just a couple minutes, and we're going to have a fabulous show tonight. This is a great subject, and we have a terrific guest. So we'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, we are back, and I think we're done with the echoes for this evening. Let's get Becky Andreasson back on the line with us. Okay, Becky, let's start this again.
Okay.
Anyways, we have a terrific show tonight, and this is a very controversial subject because a lot of people, when they hear the name Aleister Crowley, they get their underwear in a bunch. They think we're talking about devil worship and all kinds of things. And Don Webb is our guest. He is a terrific author, a magician, a philosopher, a teacher, many, many things this man is. And he is here to set the record straight on all of this information about the left-hand path and Aleister Crowley. And Don's also, he was a high priest in the Temple of Set, so we're getting the inside story on all of these things tonight from him. We're going to bring him on in just a couple of minutes now that we're free of that echo. But I want to know, what's going on in Virginia? Is it still snowing there?
Oh, no, the snow is finally all gone, but everything is kind of like hard as rock and crusted over and icy. So every day it starts melting away a little bit more and a little bit more, and the nights are kind of dangerous on the, with the ice melting. But I think we only have a couple more days of it. Warmer weather is coming, I'm told.
Oh, you are lucky. We still have winter up here, and it's another snowy night in New England, but that's okay. It's what we expect up here, but I know it's not to be expected where you are. So.
No, I want spring.
Yeah.
And I thought I heard her Mother Nature knocking, so she should be coming pretty soon.
Oh, good. With better weather for all of us, I hope.
Yes,
so
yes.
I have instead of paranormal news tonight, I wanted to share a very funny email that we received from one of our listeners. And she wrote to us, and she said, "Dear Supernatural Girlz, she's in Atlanta, by the way. 2 snowstorms in 2 weeks, plus an earthquake. I guess the only thing left is the zombie apocalypse." I don't know if a lot of people have heard about this, but there was an earthquake in North Carolina. Some reports say it was a 4.1, some say it was a 4.4, but it was felt all the way down into Georgia.
Oh my goodness! Now I'm north of that. I mean, right there.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
But our listener said she thought a large tree had fallen down across her entire yard, and it was, in fact, this earthquake. This is very unusual. Again, not only do we have unusual weather, but now there's this kind of unusual earthquake that hit North Carolina. That's where the epicenter was. And then everybody felt it down to Georgia, apparently. So I wanted to bring that up. It's fascinating. I have an earthquake app, and it quite honestly scares the heck out of me every time I look at it. And I see earthquakes all over the place, and there's so many, hundreds and hundreds of them. But luckily, not too many around here. But this is the first time I've heard of something that strong in that area. So things are changing.
Oh, I don't like it either.
Yeah. So anyways, it was a cute email from Marcy, one of our listeners in the Atlanta area. So we have Don Webb with us this evening. And Don is the author of a new book, Overthrowing the Old Gods, Aleister Crowley and the Book of the Law. And we're going to get, like I said, the inside story on all this. We're going to get a lot of information and clear up a lot of this controversy, maybe start some of our own. So let's bring Don onto the show. Let me get him live here with his microphone. And Don, welcome to Supernatural Girls Radio.
Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really like the show, so I'm so glad to be part of it.
Thank you. Well, thanks for taking the time to join us tonight. My goodness, you are a fascinating man. You have also, you received a Shirley Jackson Award nomination for one of your stories, or was it one of your books?
One of my short stories was nominated. You know, I was the near loser on that. In fact, a friend of mine pointed out to me I'm the near loser of more awards than anyone he could think of.
Oh, no. Well, it's quite an honor to be nominated for that. And you've also written mystery novels, science fiction stories, and you have other nonfiction books as well as Overthrowing the Old Gods. I mean, you are quite an accomplished writer, an excellent writer, actually. And both Becky and I enjoyed your book, Overthrowing the Old Gods, which is available for our listening audience on Amazon.com. And you're also a former high priest of the Temple of Set, so you've got a lot of experience here, not just knowledge, but real-life experience with all of this.
Well, being a magician is not something you do in your armchair. It's an active, way of life, a way of knowing the world.
Now, how did you get involved in this particular path?
Well, my entrance into the Temple of Set, there's a certain amount of comedy about that, but I will share it with you. Several years ago, I had been commissioned to write a short story about the Salem witch trials. Well, I didn't really know anything about the Salem witch trials, so I did my research. And I came up with a little timeline about how the hysteria grew and who was accused, who benefited from the accusations. Worked really hard on it one day. At the end of the day, put my chart down, turned on the TV, and there was Geraldo Rivera doing the Satanism in America show. And he had a group of experts talking about occult crime, and they were putting forth the same accusations that were done in Salem, including like dream evidence as a way to track these people down. And there was a guy sitting there, kind of odd-looking gentleman, with really pronounced eyebrows. And I thought, oh, great, what's this guy going to say? At one point, one of these experts was making this long rant that says, I have the address of every Satanist in America. I know the crimes they've committed. And so the gentleman with the odd eyebrows said, well, in that case, why don't you arrest them? A very logical remark, totally deflated this guy. And I actually heard Geraldo cut this guy's mic off. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. I'm fascinated by that. So I watched the whole of the show, found out that his name was Dr. Michael Aquino. All right, I've never been a joiner of occult groups. In fact, sadly, a lot of the occultists you meet, they're a couple of tacos short of a combination plate. But the next night I was with some friends, and I said, wow, if I could send that guy a fan letter, because I love the look on Geraldo's face when he made that remark. I said, but I have no way to figure out how to get it to him. One of my friends gave me a very odd look, and I thought, oh, no, I've offended her in some way. So as we were leaving the party, she motioned me over, and I said, what? And she says, well, actually, I'm going to see Dr. Aquino next week at the International Conclave of the Temple of Set. Would you like me to take the letter?
Oh.
It's a stunning moment. Here's a person with a real job. She has a high-level management job. She's sane. She's not wearing, most occultists, they wear so much occult jewelry that if they fell in the river, they would drown. And the person seemed very normal.
That's true. I've seen that.
I said, okay. I sent the letter, and in the letter, I actually said to him, I did a little research. I said, all right, your group looks pretty good. Of course, I would never join a group that's interested in individual development. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Right. It does sound
he
like
wrote back.
It's kind of strange. Yeah. Yeah.
He wrote back and said, well, with this really funny letter that ended with the remark, maybe you should join and explain it to us. Well, actually, I thought about that. I thought, okay, I'm a horror writer. I write a lot of horror fiction. This would be a good place to get some actual notion of what is a ritual really like. Not the Hollywood version of these things, but what do real people do? And I thought, okay, I'll join this group. I joined. I received their introductory packet, their first manual that they give out to first degree, called the Crystal Tablet. It had the strongly Neoplatonic philosophical base. It was actually all extremely reasonable. And, well, anyway, within 7 years, I was the next high priest.
Oh, what an honor. Now, is that something, I want to ask you, is this something that they elect a high priest, or you're appointed by the last priest? How does this occur?
Yeah.
Because it sounds like quite an honor.
The Temple of Set is carefully made so that one person cannot control it. Because the problem you have in any occult group, any small human group, you get one person in power. They don't want to ever leave, or they may abuse their power. So the Temple of Set has a governing body of 9 people who determine such things as recognition to various degrees, who holds the main office, who's the treasurer, that sort of thing. The previous high priest, Michael Aquino, appointed, put my name forth, and then the Council of 9 voted me in.
Wow.
And after about 6 years of it, I was like, okay, I'd rather be a writer. This is almost like herding cats. This is so much like herding cats.
Oh, boy.
So, the people that followed me have done an excellent job. Particularly the woman that followed me, Patricia Hardy, man, excellent high priestess.
So it can be anyone. You can have a high priestess. You can have a high priest, and it's just all determined by the Council of 9. And obviously, if you want to continue in that role or not, that sounds very reasonable.
Abilities, right? The person's abilities.
Well, hopefully, ability has something to do with it. But it's an interesting office. It teaches you a lot when you have to do practical administration. It's one thing to say, I'm a king of the universe in my brain. It's another thing when you're saying, I'm trying to get all these people to do a variety of activities, both magical and mundane. The temple, for example, has a huge conclave every year. And since it's international, we've had it in a lot of locations, Berlin, Helsinki, Honolulu. That in itself teaches you a lot. Getting a large number of people there, setting up time to do their ritual work, setting up time for them to have discussion, picking a place that everyone, will have a good time. Even simple goals like that can teach a magician so much more than the traditional idea of, I need to memorize this list of angels or demons.
Yeah, because you're talking about not only leadership, but just basic, social skills, cohesive, bringing people together. And this is a large group. How many members?
We don't discuss membership, but the conclaves are pretty small. They usually run about 100 people show up. Various people come at different times in their career. We highly recommend that you attend a conclave before you apply for your second degree of membership. And the temple has 6 grades of membership.
Mm-hmm. So now that you look back on this, you must be feeling like you made a good decision. It sounds like you had a very positive experience.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm still a member, obviously, but no, I thought it was an extremely positive experience for me. One of the nice things about the temple is during your first 2 years, as you evidence your understanding of the temple's philosophy, we don't presume you're going to learn to like us. It's going to be, is this the right place for you? It's all about chemistry. Different people have different doors. Different things will help them find access to their soul. And if you're not finding it here, it's better for you to move on. It's better for us if you move on. Most of our former members are people that, we oftentimes socially continue to see. We don't lose friendships over it. And that's different than a lot of occult groups.
Mm-hmm. And is this group actually practices magic constantly, right? You're always learning, growing.
We are all practicing magicians. It's not a study society.
Right.
In
it's
fact,
not
want,
study, right.
You can even say the controversial word saying it practices black magic.
That was my next question, because you spoke of three or four different magics in the book, and I was wondering which one was, chosen to practice there.
Well, let's put Hollywood definitions aside for a moment. Mm-hmm. White magic is the magic of union. You're trying to bring your will in line with a god, a goddess, a force of nature. White magic is about harmonizing your soul to a perceived larger entity. Mm-hmm. And this is something a lot of people want. They want to be part of something bigger. Mm-hmm. And you can see white magic in a lot of forms. You would see it at the Catholic Mass. You'd also see it at a football pep rally, because everyone is raising their energy for a single unified cause outside themselves. Mm-hmm. Black magic, which is the magic of the left-hand path, is magic of non-union. It's a magic of self-willed, self-conscious evolution. Now, of course, the benefits in this is this understanding that when I die, whatever I've made of myself spiritually is all I have. I'm the one ultimately responsible, and my goal is not to blend in with the cosmos. Now, both of these ideas, the left-hand path and the right-hand path, come from Hinduism. By far, most Hindus are right-hand path. However, the left-hand path came into existence in various areas. It's usually associated with the discipline known as Tantra, which in the West, everyone just thinks of as sex magic, which kind of misses the point. Tantra, left-hand path magic in general, is about desire. What do you want? Now, it's easy to say, okay, what I want is good sex, what I want is good food, what I want is money. All right, great, you're an animal. That's what an animal wants. Well, maybe not money. Yeah. But desire for truth, desire for know how the universe works, is a very deep and powerful desire in some people, as much as a desire for sex or companionship or, a great Thanksgiving meal. Plato, early on, certainly a very left-hand path philosopher, realized that desire is the key to truth. You have to want to know what's really going on in yourself and in the cosmos, and not be satisfied with the answers that society gives you. Black magicians use their magical power both for practical ends, I want a better job, I want my health to be better, and for the end of achieving cosmic knowledge. Now, this does not have anything to do with the general movie idea of the horrible, bloody sacrifice. First off, sacrifice doesn't work on the left-hand path. You can't go sacrifice an animal's life for something. You don't own it. That would be like saying, I'm going to buy this and I want her to pay for it. In fact, most people in the temple, a large number of which are animal rights activists, because as you progress in the left-hand path, you discover you have two wonderful, great gifts to work with. One is the life force. You are so blessed to be able to live on this earth with its unspeakable variety, the beauties that it has. So you don't want to do violence to those beauties, because ultimately that's saying, I disrespect that which I am. The other gift is this gift of self-consciousness that can evolve on its own. As human beings, as a species, we evolved. That's pretty much over. We're not seeing a lot of change in the human genotype. But on an interior level, humans have continued to evolve, creating language, mathematics, art. This is where you need to continue your evolution. You have to live these two things, both the red flame of life and the black flame of the soul.
Mm. So this is very different than what most people assume about the left-hand path and about Crowley's work and the things that go on in your temple. It's very different. And so I'm so grateful that you're here with us tonight to shed light on this and tell the truth about what goes on. It's very different.
In your book, when I was reading it and fascinated by things you have written in there, it sounded like Crowley had made some wrong decisions. Is this so?
Well, we all make wrong decisions. I don't know if I'm in the place to judge the life of another human, but ultimately he made some decisions that I think brought him misery.
Right.
I think one of the things that Crowley had as a failing was not understanding the importance of healthy relationships.
Mm-hmm.
He tended to run through scads of relationships with women and men and pretty much discard them when he was done with them.
Mm-hmm.
For him, that was, of course, very liberating. Here's this guy that's coming out of Victorian England, highly sexually repressed society. So to go against the grain, he's like, wow, I'm going to have several female partners, I'm going to have several male partners. I'm going to be open about this at a time when nobody talked about that. But I don't think he ever had the great joy of finding someone that could grow alongside him. And I think that's a very important aspect of the art that he neglected. He did have some trouble with drug use, but not as much as a lot of his critics claim. You know, when I actually looked at this and then read some of the more serious biographical material, such as Richard Kaczynski's great work, I found out that was really trumped up by the media. The amazing thing about Crowley, though, he's extremely daring.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I mean, Victorian England, my God. I mean, I'm so glad I didn't live in that time as far as I know. Because I can't imagine. It's like you couldn't take a breath without somebody telling you you're doing something wrong. And here he was, you know, basically flaunting it in some ways.
And his roots were so different. I mean, you know, about his mom and dad. I read about that, and I was, like, astonished.
In the left-hand path, the earliest thing one has to do, it begins with rebellion. I mean, if you want to set yourself apart from the cosmos, the first thing you set yourself apart from is your society. Now, to some extent, you might say that all humans are on the left-hand path for a little while when they're 17. You know, they have that total break with society.
Right.
But the deeper break to really question some values is not about symbolism. It's not about spray painting a pentagram on a wall. It's asking questions like, why does our society work this way? Why does money work this way? Why is it given that I'm going to work 8 to 5 all my life and then retire and have a small amount of money and be scared till I die? Is this the way human beings should live? And the left-hand path, you have to find your personal answer. And if you can do the personal change, the self-change first, then you're more empowered to maybe change the world a little bit. Left-hand path says, change yourself first, then change the world. Right-hand path says, Find something bigger and work on changing the world, and maybe your interior will change.
So this is a very interesting juxtaposition of the two. And, you know, it also reminds me, and I saw this in one of your interviews, it also reminds me of Carlos Castaneda's work. And his mentor, his teacher, Don Juan Matus, who also talked quite a bit about, you know, going when you die and you keep your awareness rather than being eaten by the symbol of the eagle. And is that truly a similar situation? Is that what Don Juan Matus was trying to impart to Carlos, the left-hand path?
Well, you know, as far as how much Carlos Castaneda actually experienced his writings as opposed to being great fiction, I'm not going to comment. However, he definitely came up with a left-hand path system, and I think this developed because, in contradistinction to American spirituality of the 70s and 80s, where the right-hand path began to reappear in more benevolent forms than maybe Christianity, there is that moment of saying, wait, do I want my consciousness to dissolve? There's an old saying in India that explains the two paths like this. Imagine a beautiful lake full of pure water. And if you live in the right-hand path, and as you become more and more attuned with the world, you die and you become brown sugar that falls in the water and makes it sweet. In the right-hand path, you want to be the sugar. In the left-hand path, you want to taste the lake.
Interesting. Very interesting. So, again, you know, I really like the way you're sharing all of this, Don, because it takes that connotation of evil out of all of this. And I think that's an important thing to do, given that you guys nobody's involved in that kind of an evil situation, as you explained, this whole Hollywood notion of what goes on. It's just a Hollywood notion.
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, in Christianity, likewise, is portrayed in Hollywood in ways either much worse or much better than it actually is. You know, Hollywood is all about the distorted mirror.
That's right.
That's
because
for
sure. There are churches out there, though, that do sacrifice. There are groups that do that. So those groups are actually real. You're just stating that you are in. Do not do that. You do not sacrifice and do things like Hollywood says, correct?
Yeah. Sacrifice is abhorrent on two levels. One, it's just abhorrent to people that love life. Because if you love life, I mean, you know, I'm sitting here in my office with, you know, my cat Big Pig on my lap, and I love my animal companions. You know, my wife and I are into owl conservation. We have an owl house in the back.
That's Becky.
Yes, I love owls.
Well, so you're a superior person. That's the sign. And the second reason, philosophically, it's abhorrent because if my job as a human is to cross from the human level into the divine level, I don't want to say there's a big gap between me and the divine. I don't want to say, hey, divine creature, I'm trying to buy you off with a chicken here. Sacrifice increases the gap between the human and the divine. Magic bridges the gap between the human and the divine.
So it sounds to me like you're in your religion or faith, you're going down into yourself to find that one beginning point of who the Creator made you that you are, and then scoping all the way up to know yourself in perfection. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you know, we seek, you know, it's actually our imperfections probably that make us more interesting. But everything should flow from a knowledge of who you are. The watchword of the temple is an Egyptian verb, kefer, which means I have come into being. The temple celebrates self-creation. There is a moment when all the things going on with you, your body, your mind, your soul, your beliefs, the things that appear to be in your life random and planned, create that spark that can then say, I want to continue. Hopefully it doesn't say I'm perfect, because I'm perfect would mean, don't have anywhere to go, don't have anywhere to grow. But, Kefir ultimately means, even if it were just me, even if I'm the only thing that's going to make it in the cosmos, I'm going to make the effort to do that. However, what we've discovered early on is that for Kefir to flourish, you have to find others who have this same path and celebrate both the joys of your existence and the pains of your struggle. This can give material and articulation and thought, which is why we exist at this time now as a temple. Also because the world right now is not really interested in self-creation in the sense of, I want to be more responsible. The world wants to be less responsible and find out who they can blame.
Yeah, what's up with that, Don? Why have we as a culture just kind of taken this downward spiral into that?
It's easy. It's very easy to hate people. It's very easy to hate any group. And that releases a lot of psychological energy. Hate groups they crackle with energy. I don't care whether it's Rush Limbaugh or Adolf Hitler or some left-wing hate group. Energy is released by hatred, but it's such a low quality of energy. I mean, for stuff for your soul to feed on, man, that's the Big Mac. That's the Chicken McNugget of the spiritual world. It's not anywhere compared to love. It doesn't even touch the notion of wonder, which is the best thing you can feed your psyche.
So you're saying it's just that people are taking the easy way out.
Well, sure. I mean, it's exactly like I'm driving home. It's late on a Friday. What am I going to get to serve my family? Oh, yeah, I'll get the bucket of KFC. It has minimal intellectual effort. It produces a momentary feeling of being powerful, but it's not really powerful. There's no real power in hating a group. There's a momentary feeling, this brief indulgence. We have, I'm at one with this hatred. I really hate this people. And it's not just from, I'll give you some right-wing examples. It could be left-wing examples, too. You can see any liberal that starts foaming at the mouth when Sarah Palin says something. All right, there's no actual power in that moment. You may think, I'm really clever. I see that this person is not very clever. But there's no power. There's no transformation. Some emotions require and cause transformation. Consider the very reason Paranormal Girlz exists. It exists for people seeking wonder. That is a high-level product for the soul. That is a much more sophisticated product. If I say I want to have in my next life, I want to color my immortality with something, man, I'd much rather color it with wonder than with hatred.
Yes,
wonderful
we would.
Point. Yes, that's excellent, Don. And thank you for saying it just that way. That was absolutely perfect. And I'd like to refer to a quote that you actually referred to in another interview, if I could. You referred to the Gospel of Thomas. And the quote is, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. That's a very powerful statement that you brought up in that interview, and I love it. I love it. It's terrific.
Well, no, a lot of the Gnostic groups really had it going on, and they lived in a time very like our time now, where you have a large number of cultural choices, and said, all right, what are my questions? Because I have all the resources in the world. I mean, there's times in Alexandria up till the fall of the Roman Empire, man, here was this really cooking place. Got this huge library. So the question is, what do I do in a culturally diverse group? The Temple set is eclectic. We look at a lot of different cultural backgrounds. We're not, you must go study these Egyptian things or Nordic things or Aztec things. although there are groups inside the temple interested in each of those topics. But the ultimate question is, what's in me, not what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a strange relationship between these two things, because the mysteries of yourself, of your innermost self, are always tied for the individual to some mystery in the outer world. But I can't tell you what mystery is your mystery to follow. I can't say, oh, this is the religious path that you're going to grow on. But there is that echo, that strange thing somewhere in the universe waiting just for you. That door is just for you to knock on.
So once you know thyself, then you reach out to the divine and find that mystery that is out there in the almighty, divine creator. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying, and it's not, and by no means is that a new message. I mean, let's think of that phrase, know thyself, or the little Greek, gnosis seton, and please pardon my bad Greek. That was written underneath the mirror at the Oracle of Delphi after you went to the most sacred spot in all of Greece, and you spent a buttload of money, and you asked the Oracle whatever your most important question is. She would answer. And then before you left, the sacred moment, they put you in front of a mirror. Mirror's a little harder to make if you can't do glass, by the way. And beneath it was written the words, know thyself, gnosis seton. That's the moment of change. What brought you there? You really needed something. You spent the time to go to where the oracle was. You spent your life savings to pay for the oracle. You had to wonder, is this the right question to ask? And then part of her answer was always, for everyone, know thyself. Mm-hmm. She had a lot of other answers, too, like, if you go to war, mighty kingdom will be destroyed. But the biggest answer was always, know thyself.
Mm-hmm. The simple truth.
Yes.
Well, simple things are powerful. Water in an oasis is a very simple thing.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a fascinating discussion with you, Don. And, again, if you have a question for Don, please call into the show at 646-478-0828. We're going to take a short commercial break. Everybody stay tuned for this fascinating discussion with Don Webb. Don is the author of Overthrowing the Old Gods. We will be right back.
Your property tax bill. Have you seen it lately? It's frightening. Your property taxes are going up while your home value is going down. It's time to fight back and win. For the real truth about the property tax system, get attorney Pat Quintilian's book, Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Attorney Quintilian answers all your questions and gives you the facts you need to fight a property tax bill that is spiraling out of control. You'll also read about what happens to property owners who don't check their property records, only to find out too late they're taxed on square footage, fixtures, and even buildings that they don't own. Is this happening to you? Learn your rights. Buy attorney Pat Quintilian's book today. Are You Getting Screwed on Your Property Taxes? How to Find Out and How to Fix It. Available on Amazon.com.
Bonjour, this is Veronique Raskin, founder of the Organic Wine Company. As one of the pioneers of the organic wine movement, since 1980 I have brought you the very best and most authentic organic wines directly to your table. I work with small family estates who grow certified organic grapes and produce exceptional wines. You can purchase our wines individually from our website at theorganicwinecompany.com or join one of our wine clubs. Our organic wines are perfect for you and for your family as gifts for friends and relatives, and they are simply spectacular for the holidays. Visit us at theorganicwinecompany.com to enjoy the very best organic wines conveniently delivered to your door. I am Veronique Raskin, passionate about my mission. I offer to you vegan, organic, and biodynamic wines made by people of the heart, wines with a heart. Au revoir. Call us at 1-888-ECO-WINE.
Are you ready for a new experience of freedom and powerful connection? Would you like a positive, effortless change in your life? Then come to CosmicFusion.com, where we offer the most advanced energy clearing and expansion techniques in the world, with a quantum vortex energy to activate your divine blueprint and life's purpose. When your soul leads the way with cosmic fusion and quantum vortex energy, you can break clear of past difficulties and blocks with the power of the source. With Cosmic Fusion, the source energy does the work for you. It's easy and effortless. Listen to our free meditation right from our Cosmic Fusion website, the Cosmic Code Meditation. Sign up for one of our interactive webinars today. Come to Cosmic Fusion, www.cosmicfusion.com, to experience an effortless awakening and transformation. Are you ready for an upgrade? Are you ready for a new experience of living in the fifth dimensional magic and powerful connection? Then visit CosmicFusion.com today. CosmicFusion.com.
Terrific discussion here tonight, very enlightening, with author Don Webb, and he has a great book. Becky and I highly recommend it. It is Overthrowing the Old Gods, Aleister Crowley and the Book of the Law. Don, what made you write this book? What inspired you?
Well, the book is written in two parts. When it was the 100th year anniversary of Crowley's reception of the Book of the Law in Cairo, there was some discussion going on in the Temple of Set electronic list about what did this book mean? Does it have any importance for us? Because obviously we're not Thelemites. We don't have Crowley as central to our thinking. Although Crowley obviously has created tremendous amounts of occult breakthroughs. And I began writing just a series of little essays, not even with a particular design, where I just picked some aspects of Crowley's thought that I thought were misunderstood or badly represented. That was initially issued as a very small book, almost a pamphlet, from Luna Raven Press, a Texas-based press that produces esoteric titles. Very few copies of that sold. I think maybe 400. If you have one of the copies, it's actually very rare. Keep it. It's doing good on eBay these days, I see. Oh. And some years later, I considered Crowley's most important working, which is the Book of the Law. Now, it is forbidden to make a commentary on the Book of the Law.
Yeah, why is that? Why is it forbidden?
All right, I think Crowley did something very intelligent when he did that. Even though I did go out and break that particular law, Crowley came from a fundamentalist background. His parents, his family were Plymouth Brethren. Now, the Plymouth Brethren, as a fundamentalist group, not very big these days, but they're the people that started the huge amounts of speculation about the Book of Revelations. And if you've ever been driving in your car at night and listening to that Christian station talking about the Book of Revelations and how the end times is now and send us money, the root comes from the Plymouth Brethren.
Oh, okay.
Crowley saw the danger of sectarianism. If you have one person that comes up and says, I can interpret this law for you, this is an extremely dangerous thing. And as I say again and again in the book, please Don't take my interpretation as gospel. Don't let me do your thinking for you. Let me kick you a little bit so you think. Because that is a sneaky way to gain power. If you're going to say, oh, I'm going to explain the Bible to you. No. What you're explaining is your own subjective universe, but you're not taking responsibility for it, saying it's all in the text. I wanted to talk about the book. Mm-hmm.
So now I understand. So, yeah, this makes perfect sense in why he would state something like that. So, again, it was all about people's emancipation, freedom, ability to think for themselves. And rather than reading somebody else's commentary, he was encouraging people to read it, come up with your own thoughts and feelings on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
As he himself had to do. I mean, when he received the document, that did not put him at the highest level of initiation. A lot of people don't quite grasp that. He was in the adept grades of the Golden Dawn, and when he received this book, his initial thought was, wow, I don't even quite know what to make of this. He just made 11 copies to give to friends. It took him 5 more years to accept the book, and he had to do magical workings and travel, expose himself to a lot of cultural influences before he got it. And it wasn't until 15 years later that he said, I am the magus of this word. I can now say it to the world. Magic that changes the self takes a long time. And the occult industry is based on the idea that, no, I'm going to give you something, you'll go in a trance, you'll feel better, you've changed. But as we all know as real adult human beings, self-change takes a while and a lot of effort. So he himself, when he was presented with the Book of Law, didn't know what to make of it. Now, what I wanted to do was look at his sources, his teachers, both magically and philosophically. And then I want to talk about the Book of the Law and its effect on the occult world, because it changed everything. Even if you are for some group that says, oh, I hate Crowley, well, let's look at what your leaders are saying. Let's look at the methods you're trying. And you say, oh, yeah, it keeps going back to Crowley. In fact, I would say probably if you're in the English-speaking occult world, it's either your roots will either be Blavatsky, George Gurdjieff, or Crowley. And I just really wanted to kind of say, let's have some more keys to unlock that door, and let's put it in a more contemporary context. Now, Crowley would have never thought of himself as being the left-hand path, because
really?
In his day,
so he wouldn't have said this is what I'm doing, but he was a genius.
He would be quite.
I mean, he was an absolute genius.
You know, I think that if I had a chance to chat with him, and perhaps, who knows, someday I will, I think that the term left-hand path in Crowley's days was usually just used as an insult. The term came into English in a wonderful novel called Xenoi by Bulwer Lytton, and it featured a left-hand path initiate of high rank that had become immortal, which is one of the goals of left-hand path, but had lost the capacity for love. Now, as a modern left-hand path musician, I would say love, you really need that strongly in the path. Crowley threw that term around a lot of people he didn't like. One day when Austin Osman Spare, the trance artist, thoroughly pissed him off, he publicly denounced Spare as a brother of the left-hand path. But let's look at the 2 fundamental laws. Fundamental right-hand path law, beautifully stated by Jesus. It's in the Lord's Prayer, thy will be done on earth as is in heaven. Let's contrast that to Crowley's law. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. So, am I going to look for the law outside myself and think, oh, I understand the divine? Or do I look inside myself and say, well, whatever I've got, good or bad, it's me. This is what I got to do.
Well, this is interesting to me on so many levels. I mean, I was somebody asked me to read a book, and of course I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it was about two boys from India, brothers, who died in a car crash unexpectedly and began communicating with their parents after death. And one of the things that really stood out in the book is that people who are doing charitable work because they're supposed to, because something outside of them is demanding it of them, once they die, they really don't get credit for it. It's like, look, that didn't come from your heart. That didn't come from your soul. You just kind of did it because you were supposed to do it. It was a very interesting piece in the book. And it kind of goes along in some ways. It's a bit of a tangent I'm on here, but it's related to what you're saying, that it sounds like what you're saying is this path is everything needs to come from the self, these choices you make, these decisions to find out who you really are and to come from that place of total authenticity. That's what we're talking about, if I'm correct in what you're saying.
Well, absolutely, and it's very important. Finding out who you are, finding out your psyche, is not the same thing as finding out what your ego is. The ego is a tool, like the body, very good tool, but the ego is not there to be worshipped. The left-hand path, for a lot of people when they first start, they may come from a background where they've been really put down, repressed, hurt, and so they turn to their own ego and say, this is it. But no, you have to way step beyond that. Ego interests are bound in time and space and culture. The psyche's interests are beyond time, beyond space, beyond culture, maybe even beyond species.
Well, now, with Crowley, he went inside and found himself, yet he also had help, his angel, guardian angel, and others. So he also went outside looking for answers. So, this is not, much different than if I go inside myself and then I ask outside for Jesus to help me and to come in to me and be with me. He also asked for help. So it's kind of like the same thing, only one's on one side and one's on the other. Isn't that correct?
Well, many people would say that both paths lead to the same absolute.
Mm-hmm.
The left-hand path assumes that whatever there is about you that begins to question is that which is divine.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what you get to work with.
Right.
And if you refine that, one can get good answers from the cosmos, but you have to be able to ask the right questions and be at the right time. The right-hand path assumes the cosmos is really there trying to help you. The left-hand path is not as friendly a place. We assume the cosmos is profoundly neutral. Ultimately, the cosmos does not care if I succeed. But on the good hand, the cosmos also isn't there saying, hey, I want to screw this guy. The right-hand path assumes that the cosmos is full of both loving and non-loving entities, and that you're part of a interdimensional, intergalactic chess match of some kind. I think for the ethic of responsibility, the left-hand path succeeds very well. For the ethic of, I want to be a really good person in society, the right-hand path might be better because early on it teaches you to look outside. The right-hand path is allocentric, whereas our path is psychocentric.
I see. Okay. That was a good answer. Thank you.
I know. I love talking to you, Don. This is just a wonderful conversation, and you just have great enlightening information that you're passing on to us and all of our listeners. So again, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show to talk about your book, and also Crowley, who was apparently a lot of people say quite misunderstood, some due to his own behavior, but certainly, I mean, from everything I've read about him, he is quite the genius, the magical genius, and he wasn't afraid to do what he did, even though, like you said, he was a human being, he had his lacks, and he made his choices, and he had to live by them, some of them not so pleasant. But still, what an interesting person he was, and that he still has this far-reaching effect today, even though he died in, 1947?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
No, he did die in 47, and the sign of an effective magus, someone who pronounces a word into the cosmos, is he affects people even if they don't like him.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And he did.
You know.
Yes, he did. This is true.
Wasn't
Another
he also
amazing
on a Beatles album cover or something? Didn't they put him on one of his album covers?
In 1969, when Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band came out, they put 100 people on the cover that they said they really liked. One of them was Aleister Crowley.
Oh, my
I
goodness.
So. Yeah.
Wow, Patricia, I never knew that. Wow. That's amazing. In the book, also, another question I'd like you to speak about is love under will. That was fascinating when I read that, because I have a whole different outlook about love than what was written. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Well, the Crowley's law, which is encapsulated in the Greek word thelema, which is Greek, second declension noun, happens to be, if you tally up the letters, Greek is subject to each letter having a numerical value, equals, of course, the word agape, the word that we associate with Jesus, meaning love.
Mm-hmm.
And so he saw these two ideas as being equivalent. If I am proceeding to find my true will, even though that seems really, really selfish, that's the most loving thing I can do to the entire world. For example, let's say Pablo Picasso, pretty clearly his true will was to paint. Mm-hmm. And yet, by following his will, what a gift of love he gave the world. Mm-hmm. Now, Crowley saw love under will to mean that love, and this is his interpretation, it's not mine, his interpretation would be that love can be directed the way you want to direct it. That, you're not going to love everybody, and the source of power is learning to love people who, for whatever reason, you maybe initially find disgusting. And usually in Crowley's case, he interpreted love to mean the sexual act. So you could, he even ran ads for deformed women and circus freaks and dwarves to have sex with.
Oh, my goodness.
Of course, before Craigslist.
Wow.
And again, he did this during Victorian times. My goodness.
He when he was living in New York in the early, 20s, when he was running ads like that in the New York Times. Of course, that has several effects. One, you get to meet a lot of deformed people that want to have sex with you. But on the other hand, you also get to meet a lot of reporters who then are going to come out and say, "What the heck are you talking about? My God, you sound like a story," which is a magical act. Love under will, for me, means that it's extremely important to find this outward manifestation of what Crowley would call the holy guardian angel. That you should find this person who is so deeply inspiring to you that you are willing to be a better person and hold on to this person. And you had better be to her or him that same thing.
Like
now,
a soulmate.
love is not easy. Like a soulmate.
Mm-hmm.
Love is not easy. I mean, in American society, what is it now? 55% of marriages end in divorce.
At least
that's so bad.
Finding someone you can say, I can really stay with this person, that's as much an antinomian act today as Crowley's, I'm going to find as many bed partners as I can.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot. That's not hard to do. You can go to any city and the bar to go to find those. Finding someone who represents all that is good in your soul and saying, I'm going to become all that's good in her or his soul, that's a huge magical act. Extremely powerful.
One. Yes.
But as humans, we all understand that because we've all had that moment where we find someone that we immediately start acting better to please them. Mm-hmm. We've all had that moment of love where we're like, wow, I'm going to clean my act up. Mm-hmm. So that's part of humankind's key. Love is not just the physical. love produces change, you have to find that person that can produce the greatest change in you. And, of course, I am, giving this now in terms of a monogamous relationship. No, it could be a lot of different things. It could be even, taking care of your elderly mother or taking care of a child with special needs. There could be a huge number of ways that could manifest.
Right.
But doing that will cause you to overcome the barriers of your ego to find the wonder of your psyche.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. There's a lot of power in that, more so than the hate.
That's right. That's where the real transformation happens.
Yes.
And like you
energy.
said, this is not necessarily easy, but this type of path, when you choose to go on this transformative journey, it's something where you have to keep facing yourself and your own limitations and making choices.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I mean, the only thing that's truly interesting in life is overcoming what you think of as your limitations. I mean, overcoming is the purpose of life.
Well, that's your book, the book, too, Overthrowing the Old Gods. So, right there, that's huge. Yeah, because this is not just about Crowley. This is what you're talking about in the book. Yeah. What you're saying, Becky, is that this is about our own personal transformation, too. Mm-hmm.
Well, no, that's excellent. I'm so glad that you hear that, because what I wanted to do was not to write a book about, Crowley's life and be scandalous and exciting. I mean, there's a lot of those out there. I was really interested, though, in his spiritual technology. And can we take his spiritual technology and apply it even if we're not in, say, a group connected with Crowley? Mm-hmm. So that's why I looked at the roots of the technology, the essence of the technology, and then the effects of the technology.
And there was a lot of mathematics and words that are used in all this technique in magic that, and I know word is powerful. I understand that completely. And I see the math even in words that you have written about in the book, and that was pretty amazing to me.
Well, for any kind of divine language, there's going to be a lot more levels than just, just a surface level. So you're going to have like when he got the Book of the Law, he got this in 3 days in 1 hour periods. Imagine that. You're going to get the information you need for everything you're going to do. Now, if you're simplistic, you assume, the future exists, that's from my future self. No, wrong, fail. Future is ever-changing. So you need the information that is timeless, beyond concepts of future and past. If you ever look at something like the Book of the Law and says, why is the language that weird? Here's how you can understand this in your own life. Imagine I told you, next week, I want you to give a 15-minute lecture on what you do for a living. Uh-huh. And you prepare and you research it and you cut it down to 15 minutes, and it's brilliant. And then just before you walk in to speak to your audience, I say, and did I mention it's all the 3-year-olds?
Uh-huh. That was great when I read that. I laughed. That's fantastic putting it that way. I mean, wow. Then what do you do?
So then you pack it in such a way that if they remember anything, they can unpack it. Mm-hmm. And we do this at our best. At our best, we can make gestures toward those we love, those we truly respect, that can be unpacked in a lot of different ways. Some things can be a very traditional gesture. I gave roses to my wife yesterday. It's a very traditional gesture. But there's a lot of information packed into that simple rose.
Right.
It says that I took the time to find it, that she's inspiring to me that I found this. Where I chose to display it, even what vase do I use. All these things packs it with information. And the packing of information is a magical act.
Right.
It's easy to see it as a magical act if, I'm drawing a circle on the floor and burning some candles and muttering something, because that looks like magic. But no, every willful communication is magical. What we're doing right now, you and both of you and I, with all your listeners, that's a magical act we are all sharing. Mm-hmm. And it will have an effect. For some people, it may have a considerable effect. They may hear something that really speaks to them, not because we're brilliant, although, of course, obviously we are, but because they are at that place where they can hear that message.
That's right.
Sometimes messages are very brief. My personal initiator, Dr. Stephen Edward Flowers, who's a member of the Temple of Set, also the founder of the Rune Guild, when he was in college, one day happened to be riding home from a little adventure and heard a single word spoken. The word was Runa. At that time, he knew some German, he knew English, he knew it probably had something to do with the runes. So what he did the next day was cut classes, because that's always what you should do in university, went to the library there in the infamous UT Clock Tower, got every book he could find on the runes, academic books. There happened to be one occult book that was there for some weird reason. I don't know how that had found its way to the UT library. He began his quest. And he was able later to articulate his entire magical philosophy in that word. And he was recognized as a magus of Temple Set. But it took him 15 years. Think how much was condensed in that single word. Now, to a lot of people, here's what they would do. They would go and put it on their Facebook or call their friends and say, wow, the other night, God talked to me, he said this. And then 6 months later, they would have forgotten it.
That's a great point, John, because that happens a lot. I mean, and certainly a lot of people contact Becky and I all the time, and they have these experiences to recount, and it's exactly what you say. There aren't a lot of people that have the persistence and the courage to take this forward, as this gentleman did that you're just talking about. Dr. Flowers, you said is his name?
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot of people who have these one-time experiences, but they just don't pick it up and run with it. They think it's neat, and, they're on to the next thing.
Well, there are different paths for development in the world, and one of those paths, is the way of the squirrel. Because what the squirrel does, it finds a nut, and it goes to another branch, and it finds another nut. And you've seen these people in the occult world, these little occultniks, who 1 week they're really into the I Ching, and they bought a couple of books on the I Ching, and heck, they even got some yarrow sticks and throw them down 2 or 3 times. Next month, you talk to them. Wow, the Kabbalah this is so important. And they have the red string around the red list and left wrist, and you ask them why is that. I don't know, but look, it's red. And then 2 weeks from that, it's some other thing. Well, they're getting a little spark everywhere they go, but no real development. Then you have that person whose way of development is resistance. Says, all right, well, everything society says, I'm going to say the opposite. The great example of that would be the late Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan. All right, he's in the 60s. Everybody has long hair. So what does he do? Shaves his head. Everybody's all colorful. What does he do? Wears
black.
All black. Everyone's, well, what's the most frightening thing I can say? I worship Satan. However, Satan's not as powerful anymore because now he's used to sell albums. The first day Satan, sold out a concert, his magical power was somewhat limited.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So these two paths, there's another path. There's a path that some people have of, I'm going to get to the source right now. They put themselves through some tremendous kind of ordeal, a sweat lodge, or they go to a peyote ceremony, or they practice yoga for a year. But if they don't get to the source that time, they just fall back to the earth and are kind of broken. What is needed in the world is someone that can synthesize those 3 paths, Today I'm doing the path of resistance. Today I'm doing the path of the squirrel. I'm going to go and get that low-hanging fruit. Today I am of my own power rising up to the source. Someone that synthesizes those paths can get somewhere. However, the occult industry does not support synthesis. The occult industry supports the path of the squirrel. The occult industry does not like people that I'm going to make the eagle's journey. I'm going to rise up by myself. I can't sell a lot of books to those guys.
Oh, right.
But, you know, I'm part of that same industry too, right? I also sell books. I write books. I just like to say, maybe your key to enlightenment is not how many books you own, but what you do with them. Providing, of course, at least one of them's mine.
Right. Well, you know, going along with what you just said, I heard someone the other day say, you know, you can dig 20 holes minimally, or you can choose to dig one hole all the way down. And I think we are in a society right now that supports digging 20 holes kind of half-assed. But then that's what we end up with. We don't end up with the treasure that you could find when you just dig one all the way down. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, that's true. But I will say, in defense of all those out there that are gathering all their little nuts, they're probably in search of, you know, and one day they'll find that golden acorn and stick with it, hopefully.
Yeah,
but, hopefully.
All of us start on the path this way. Everybody, you know, because that's where you have to start. You know, it's not like you were born with the knowledge that, hey, if you pursue this spiritual path, this is where you're going to end up. Because we live in a pluralistic, postmodern society.
Right,
it's not like we can say everything is going to be in one direction. And we may have a certain envy at times for societies that were different. If you look at ancient Egypt, everyone had from the same religious ideas. If you look at Tibet, all right, that's a very inclusive, monolithic religious approach. But you're going to be a much more interesting person if you have to tinker somewhat to put things together, to have different experiences and figure out what they mean for you.
You learn.
Very interesting.
That's learning, yeah.
Don, we have a question from a caller, and let me get her on the line for us. This is Amendi. Amendi, welcome to the show. Do you have a question for Don?
Yes, I do. Hi, Don. My name is Amendi, the writer, and I'm curious to know if Aleister Crowley ever wrote about the numbers of pi connected to the alphabet. And I wanted to know if you also wrote about that. And I had one more other question after those two.
Well, Crowley began as a student of a group called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which focused on letter and number mysticism, basically focusing on the Hebrew alphabet. As far as pi, he does reference it a couple of times in his great compendium called 777, but I don't think he ever considered it in a deep way. As far as myself, I am somewhat familiar with drawing inspiration from number and letter mysticism. I'm a little more creative in the runic system than I am in the system that Crowley used, which was Hebrew. But meaning is always encoded in the world. We may look at a surface meaning, but there are deeper meanings because we're deeper people.
Do you have another question, Amendi, that you wanted to answer?
Yeah.
Oh, you're breaking up on us a little bit. I think if you're on a cell phone, see if you can move to a better area so we can hear you. Oh, hello?
Can you come out here?
Mandy, I think you're going to have to call back in. We're losing you here, and you're breaking up. See if you can call from a landline or from a place where you have better reception anyways. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see if she calls back in for her second question. And, I do have a question about numbers also, Don, since we're on that subject. The number 666, everybody associates, not everybody, but a lot of people associate it with something evil. But it actually is a number that is a magical number for the sun, correct?
It is the number of the sun. Of course, 666 received all of its popularity in the Revelation of St. John. However, as with most scholars, I would think that he's actually warning other Christians of Caesar Nero, because Caesar Nero's name works out to 666 very beautifully. 666 has had meaning in other traditions, of course. It's a holy number in Judaic thought because it represents the totality of existence. But, of course, with Crowley, he chose 666 because that's what his mama called him. His mother, early on, strong, fundamentalist Protestant background, every time he did something bad, she told him, you are the beast from Revelations. You are the Antichrist. Well, magically, on a deep level, whatever your mama gives you as your name, your secret soul name, is you. Whatever your mama really thought of you, that's a deep way you're tied to the universe. That's as deep for you after you're born as the birth cord was before you were born.
So that's I'm trying to remember what my mother called me. Get my soul name, but that's fascinating. But again, so many people do not know that 666 is a magical number for the sun. That puts a whole different perspective on that number.
Well, at one time when Crowley was in court, and he liked to go to court, he's kind of a litigious guy, the solicitor from the other side approached him and said, "Mr. Crowley, is it true that you identify yourself with the number 666? And Crowley, of course, says, "Why, yes, I do." And he said, "And what does 666 mean?" And Crowley looked at him and said, 666 is the square of the sun. If you wish, Your Honor, you may call me Little Sunshine during the rest of the trial.
Geez. Oh, my goodness. What a jokester. He didn't suffer fools lightly. Again, there's so much about him in the way that he thought. And he had a quick mind, obviously. He grasped things way beyond what other people could grasp at that time. So I can see him having fun with people. Very interesting. It's a great story. I love that story.
That's amazing. I also enjoyed learning about the letter M and what that meant. Because, they used to say Om, O-M, and used M in other, meditations. Can you let us all know about the letter M? That was pretty amazing to read that.
Well, there's again, this depends on tradition. There's a lot of different forms of alphanumeric mysticism. There's a wonderful 2-volume book called The Key to It All by a man named David Hulse, who deals with 13 systems in great depth. Now, M, which we know from the Aum, in Sanskrit, this syllable is said to be the source of all vibration. It begins with the A sound, ends with the U sound, so it goes through all the vowels, and then it ends in this great hum. Aum, shall we say, is the home of everything. If you want to say, where am I in the universe, that's a great signal to send out for your kind of spiritual sonar. Now, on a physical level, why does that work? Probably because infants learn to make that sound really early on and in a large number of languages, not just Indo-European languages, but also Chinese languages, Afro-Semitic languages, Afro-Asian languages. The M sound is always in the word for mother. It's one of those first sounds we have. It's actually very pleasing to do. It's why we like cats, right? They make an M-like sound in their throat.
I know. I love that you have a kitty. I have kitties, too. I love cats. Cats and owls. That's amazing. That's amazing.
That M thing, Becky, that's so fascinating you brought that up, and
yes.
That you're giving all this information. It's great about it. I've also heard that the M chant can also help to open the pineal gland.
Yes, that's what I was going to say next, yes.
Well, there are theories in the yogic systems, the Indian systems. You're taught to associate certain sounds with certain physical centers, the chakras. And the higher chakra, the one that begins to hook you into the universe, is often accessed by the word Aum. Now, it is not the word itself that does it. It's the fact that you have learned this and you've learned the practice. And if you want to, if your readers want to if your listeners tonight want to experience this, after the show's over, find some place you can sit very comfortably, get your spine as straight as you can get it, and close your eyes, and imagine you're rising up from some point down at the base of your spine, up towards your head, and as you feel your perception going up there, just let it spill out in that word Om. Aum. Feel it vibrate through your system. This is a rare moment because suddenly you've become aware of your body, which is one level of reality. You've become aware of your emotions. You had to calm yourself down to do this. You've given your brain something to think about. And then you have this spiritual moment. You have an intent. And when these four levels of reality come together, it's when we have most of our peak experiences. Now, most of our peak experiences happen because of things that seem to be beyond our control, meeting our beloved, for example. But other peak experiences can be sought out. The magician seeks those experiences to learn to love herself and then to change herself and the cosmos. And Aum can be a good place to start.
Well, I need to share something with you. When I was 21 years old, I had received a book on the cosmic energy, and I was reading this book, and I did Om. And the first time I was in my room, my bedroom, I had a metal bed, the old-fashioned wrought iron metal beds. It was up against the wall. I sat on my bed, straight back up, comfortable, meditating quietly, and then started the Om. Well, I was saying the Om. I can't even tell you how many times I had said Om and felt it running through my body. My bed started to shake and then bang up and down. And I realized, all of a sudden, somehow realized this was happening, leaped off the bed, screamed, was terrified, and never did that again for another 10 years. And I was 21 years old when that happened to me. So I know there is power in Om, and I did not want to touch it then. I was terrified of it at 21. And I will never forget that.
Well, again, think how everything that you had to get to that point. You're a young woman. You're at the height. You're developing your personality with really strong roots when you're 21. There's a lot of sexual energy that starts being available about then, and then for women continues to increase for the next 14 years. As opposed to men, it's like, oh, that was what it should have been. But you also had an iron bed,
yes,
which of itself has certain properties in terms of reflecting back bodily energy. William Reich did a great study on that. You have intent. You're like, man, I am open to something amazing. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons people's magic stops working is they stop being open to the amazing. Their psychic sense is so strong. Mm. And so you'll meet many people who'll say, oh, when I was in my 20s, I did X, I did Y, I did Z, but that doesn't work anymore. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work anymore because you have learned the world is unmagical. There is there's a secret conspiracy among the human race to keep us stupid. And the reason I say it's a secret conspiracy, I don't mean someone runs it, but we like to dumb things down. And so we take something like that, and the reaction is either, oh, it's of the devil was doing that, or you're delusional, it can't happen again. Mm-hmm. Neither of those are saying, hey, you got to experience a very unusual part of yourself for a brief period. Why were all those doors open then? How could you open them again? Why might you want to open them again? Who's done that in the past? There's a lot of interesting things to look for. And, of course, we feel fear. Fear is one of the markers of the divine.
Oh, I was.
Because
I was, petrified. I screamed. I did. I leaped off that bed, screamed, and was in the living room, and slept in the living room for months after that, not even sleeping on my bed. That's how shocked I was. It was crazy.
That's great. And I love that story, Becky. That is tremendous.
Wow.
Hey, we have, I don't mean to interrupt, but this lady, Amenti, has been waiting again to ask her second question. So let me get her back on the line because she's been very patient, and hopefully we can hear her now. Bring her live. Hi, you're back on the air. Let's see if we can get your second question answered.
Yes.
Well, yeah, okay. To Don, I wanted to ask you from the perspective of a writer, putting a book together over here. You know, pretty much what you write about, I write similar to that. And, my writing is more with the celebrities, but not the persona. I go beyond the persona. I just use the names of the celebrities and stuff to talk about the things that I talk about. And nothing Illuminati, a real esoteric mysticism, information that I share. The challenge for me the most is writing the book where the celebrities won't be the distraction. Do you understand what I'm saying? Writing so this book can be for the elevation of people, not for the entertainment of people. And I feel like that's where I struggle the most with the direction of putting this book together.
Well, it's going to, human beings focus on celebrity. We love famous people because, they make us forget about our own problems for a while. And if you're wanting to write about celebrities as archetypes, like how does this celebrity show some mystery, show some aspect of the soul, the first thing for you to do, talk about that in your introduction. Make your aims very clear. Now, the thing is, your readers can do whatever they want with the book. I mean, as soon as you let a book go, it has its own very strange life. But if you put out in your own quiet, reasonable way what your intention is, the right reader will find it. And the wrong readers at least pay for the book being printed.
That's good.
Yes.
No, it's tough because, I've written things that then people have, put all kinds of weird spins on. And I'm like, I have no idea where that came from, but thank you for the check cashing. But you will also you will find if you write with a purity of intent, you will find the people that need to hear your message.
All right, that's just. Sometimes I get a little discouraged, and I just want to say, what the hell am I writing for? Who the hell's going to listen to me, and who the hell am I? Sometimes I go into that zone. I think all writers, we all kind of go to it sometimes. But, that's been my biggest challenge while putting the book together is truly the message. How am I going to bring forth the message so people can understand what I'm really trying to say as a whole in this book?
Also, you have an advantage now writers in the past didn't have. You can throw some of your stuff out there, on a web page, and ask people to respond and question you, and then you can see, wow, if I write this, they get it. If I write it this way, maybe they're not. Writing is much more interactive now than it's ever been.
Okay. I was kind of afraid to do that. I didn't want to put too much of the book on my website. I didn't want to do that. But now that you put it that way.
Keep your word count small. Don't put thousands of words because you don't want someone to say, oh, I'm going to download it, and now it's my book. But, if it's short snippets and then, you ask people, if you're interested, please contact me. Don't write back to everyone that contacts you, but write back to those people who have a really good question. 10 people might send you a question, and the first 9, you're like, they're not getting it. But that 10th person who begins to understand it, they're worth talking to.
Okay. I'll take that insight.
Well, thank you for your call, and good luck with your book.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Great question and great answer, Don.
Yeah.
A lot of wisdom in your answer. It was terrific.
Well, my current book, the one that we're discussing, a part of it, a part of the book called The Fire and the Force, began as discussions on an email list.
Wow.
And sometimes it began with someone saying, hey, what do I make of this? Is that important or not important? I hadn't never given a great deal of thought to the fact that Crowley's home, which he says we must always turn to when we perform rituals, which is in Boleskine, was on Loch Ness. And someone asked me, is there any connection between that and the serpent? And of course, my initial response was just, kind of laugh that off. But that led me to actually research the area, its historical meaning, what kind of things show up there. And I think it would be a really interesting place to do a lot of magical workings. Mm-hmm. I feel sorry for the current owner of Crowley's home, however, because so many occultists come and try to sneak onto the property.
Oh, I bet.
When Jimmy Page owned it, he kind of liked that. He thought that was pretty cool. But now it's just a private home. It's like, we really don't want to see these people.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, again, this man has such an incredible reach. Even today, people want to visit the home that he once lived in. It's remarkable. And we have a question in the chat room. Somebody would like you to get back to Becky's experience, and if you have any more comments on that with the iron bed and the Ohm and Becky ending up sleeping in the living room for weeks.
Yes. Yes, you started to say about divinity or the divine.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a moment of you're opening your, you had this great moment of you opened yourself up to the divine without any preconceptions.
Right.
You didn't assume that the divine is going to look like a UFO or Jesus or Buddha or Cthulhu or whatever. You or just said, I want to knock on that door. That's powerful. And it also lends an authenticity to the experience. Mm-hmm. Now, on a different level, if I were going to suggest how you might research this, I think the first thing you want to look at is poltergeist phenomena, which are almost always associated with young women. Like, 95% of the cases, 98%. Mm-hmm. The iron bedstead, I would look at Wilhelm Reich and look at what's called an orgone chamber, which will tell you some things about the influence that iron has on bodily tissue. Wow. And those are some places to begin. Psychologically, the idea of the body as sort of a key to the dark side of your soul, and by dark, in this case, I mean hidden or obscured. It could also mean nurturing, moist. You might want to track down a book called The Body is Shadow that talks about the works of Jung and Reich together. Those are some places you might start. Now, if you start to investigate, some things will open for you, other things not as much. Maybe there's something odd about the place you were. Some areas, because of their geometry or because of events that happened there, are a little more psychically charged. Mm-hmm. There are certain places over the years that there's always weird phenomena. Whatever the phenomena are, follow cultural norms. If the phenomena happens in the 1800s, it's fairies. Mm-hmm. If it happened in the 1900s, it's a UFO.
Uh-huh.
Because
well, there was no...
we characterize those things in whatever looks normal to us.
And what's happened there. There was no poltergeist activity ever there that I know of when I lived there. It was the third floor. There was never any of that. But what is noticeable, what I'm thinking of when you said this and that, I've always loved wrought iron. I've always had wrought iron pieces throughout my home, throughout my life. And you think I wouldn't after a thing like that happened to me, you know? But, I mean, it's like just asking for trouble. But I love wrought iron, and I've had that all through my life in different pieces and shapes throughout my home and that. So that's one thing that stayed with me all the way through that. That's
well, iron has always had a big effect on the human psyche. When we went from bronze to iron as a people, it changed human civilization, because with bronze, you need a lot of cooperation because none of the parts making it are together. So you have big empires with huge trade routes. Everyone has to work together. Iron, on the other hand, you can make on your own once you learn the secret. And suddenly, there was a little arms race, pretty big deal about 2,500 years before Christ, that there began being empires and warfare. Iron is sometimes seen as evil. The Egyptians called it Bia Impet, the metal from heaven, because the only iron they had at first was for meteors.
Oh.
And so you could see, oh look, it fell down there in the desert. In a way you can't say in our urban environment, we don't see. And then they would go and collect the iron. The first iron in Egypt was used to make an instrument called the peshkent, which was the birthing knife, the knife you use to cut the umbilical cord.
Oh.
But then they took that same instrument and used it in a ritual called the opening of the mouth, where they would put this piece of iron on a statue or a mummy and call the spirit into it. Iron figures pretty big in the human psyche. It takes a long time for the human psyche to notice things. For example, I don't really think it's noticed computers yet. And I'm thinking that when it does, it's going to be really quite interesting.
Yes, that will be. That will be. Well, that was amazing. Thank you. And that's why I've pulled this wrought iron all through my house, pieces of wrought iron all through my years. That is really wonderful and amazing information.
Yes.
Thank you.
John, may I ask you also about dreams? You had a wonderful invocation to offer people with their dreams, but let's talk about that. It's one of my favorite topics.
What is your interest in dreams, or you just want to start hearing my half-baked theories?
I did dream analysis for many years in private practice, and I have always felt that dreams are tremendously important, and we're taught in this culture to ignore them, not to pay attention to them. They're not of any interest or not important at all, which is totally, I think, against our nature. And there's so much information, I think, that can be gleaned from our dreams. There's a relationship that should be developed with our dreams. And I saw that you had an invocation. I was wondering if you would share that with people, because a lot of our listeners do keep dream journals, and they are interested in continuing and deepening that relationship with their dreaming mind.
Well, first off, you're completely correct that we're taught to forget our dreams. And we should really question the motives of people that say that. Because let's consider, let's assume for a moment that dreams are meaningless, which they're not, but let's assume that. Okay, you spend a third of your life asleep. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you like to make that 1/3 more entertaining? If nothing else. Nothing about deeper meaning, just, hey, if I'm just lying around, I'd rather be seeing movies in my head. But no, we're told not to look at this. Now, dreams have a huge effect. The traditional people that looked at this the most were the Tibetans. Before Buddhism came to Tibet, when it was just the Bon religion, dream yoga was developed. Now, dream yoga is taught a little bit in the West. You can actually go and find out some things about it. But here's the first and most important thing. You want to remember your dreams, because otherwise, rather than having a dialogue with yourself, which is what they're really good at, they influence you, but you don't know why. Just take that moment. You wake up, and all night long you've had a dream that you've been fighting with your spouse. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean you should be fighting or that you can be avoiding fighting. A lot of things that might mean. However, how terrible if you forget this. Because then, later that day, since you're already sensitized to it, you're going to have a fight with your spouse. And you're going to wonder, where the heck did that come from? So the first step is just becoming aware of your dreams. Now, I am part of a group in the Temple of Set that studies dream magic. Most of its findings are not public right now. But I will tell you one idea, and I'm certainly not the founder of the group. I came to learn, not to teach. The magician that found the group is rather formidable. But one of the things she taught me, if you want to remember your dreams, here's something very simple. Before you go to sleep at night, as close as you can to when you're about to go in and lay down, go off someplace you can be alone, look in a mirror, say very simply what you want to dream about that night, take a long drink of water, and then go and lay down. Here's what's going to happen. You will dream about exactly what you want to dream about. Now, it may not seem that way because the dreaming mind uses different language than you do. But if you say, I want to dream about how I can make my workplace better, well, you're probably not going to have a dream that says, buy new software. You know,
right.
Your dream might be, about going to a Dairy Queen or something. However, you're beginning a dialogue with a part of yourself that uses very different information. I mean, one way you might look at that, imagine you and another person come together in a room and you try to find out if you have any common languages. You try your English, your Spanish, a little bit of French, no dice. They try Chinese and maybe Klung and, Persian, and you're not getting anywhere. But what if between you there was a huge selection of pictures of everything on Earth, and all you could do is sort through the pictures and hand them to each other? You could begin to communicate. You could begin to create a language. That's what the dreaming self is doing with us now. And that dreams are probably, and this is from a scientific behaviorist point of view, this isn't from a mythic point of view, dreaming is probably there to simulate what might be going on in the world. It's like you try out new solutions of things, but the language and the images look very unusual to us at first. As you begin to pay attention to your dreams, people almost invariably, regardless of their religious tradition or psychological background, find their lives start getting better. Great way to learn to listen to yourself is to learn your dreams.
That's wonderful.
And I love what your friend suggested, or the member of the group suggested, with the mirror and the glass of water. That's something I'd not heard before. Certainly I know about putting out an intent before you go to sleep or writing it in your dream journal before you go to sleep. But this puts a whole different interaction together, and I like the elements. It's nice. It has a nice feel to it.
Yes.
Well, it does two things. One, it puts whatever you speak, drinking it in is a wonderful piece of symbolism. So I brought that out, and I'm watching myself take it in. We are not unified beings. We are not one simple part. People have a lot of eyes, a lot of different selves. That's why in many cultures, like say the ancient Egyptians, you have more than one soul. They completely understood, oh wow, human beings are not simple. You have a ba, a ka, a body, a shadow, an ach, a sakim. Or if you're Germanic, you have your lik and your munin and your hunin. There are different maps because human beings are not all together. The first thing you communicate in magic primarily is to the whole of yourself. yes, you may be communicating to other entities, but if you can communicate to the whole of yourself, you have wrought something quite wondrous.
Mm-hmm. Because we are wonderful. We're creations that are wonderful and beautiful.
Yeah, wonder and beauty are the human birthright.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Anything that takes that away, under whatever banner, religious, political, philosophical, is to be distrusted.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that.
Me too. That's absolutely the truth. It is the truth.
Yes.
And it is time for people to start questioning exactly what the way you're saying. Anybody who tries to take that away from us, it's our right. Mm-hmm. What we come in with, nobody has the right to take it away. But I'm so glad to hear that you're doing this dream work, and it sounds like it's really really wonderful. And I hope someday you'll be able to publish, or at least let the rest of us out here know what you found. It just sounds really exciting.
Yes.
Well, what I will actually be is I'll continue to be a pain in the ass to the woman who teaches me these things, so she will make her book. I've had not a bad history of getting people to write, both fiction writers and occult writers that are my students. Because I don't want to be the expert to everything. Heck, I'm barely an expert on anything.
Yes, that's good. That's continual learning and growing, right?
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. It is. It's a refinement, that's for sure. Yes. But it's wonderful. I can't wait to try this now with mirror in the water. That's what I'm going to do tonight. I think
love
all of our
that.
listeners should give it a try. It sounds great.
Yes. I mean, you're looking right at yourself. You know you're talking to yourself, and you mean you. I mean you in there, you know, and then you drink the water, and water is spiritual. I mean, that is just absolutely beautiful.
Terrific.
And so simple. Yes.
Now, you had another one that you referenced also, Don, which was something to do with the candle. And
fire.
Let me see. I've got your interview right here.
I know.
Let me find it, because I thought this one was great, too. Let me just see how you referred to it. Yeah. Light a red candle with the name Hypnos carved into it. Does this ring a bell?
Oh, yeah, that's wonderful, because symbolism is the key to the psyche, and the reason, of course, I would choose those things. Red is a color associated with the passions, with blood, with energy, and Hypnos being the Greek god, well, actually the Greek Titan, that was in charge of sleep. Hypnos and Morpheus. Hypnos is the one that brings dreams to people in the Odyssey. But again, it's not a matter of those particular symbols. It's a matter of finding the symbols that work the best for you. Like
well, this is a nice one though, and some of our listeners may want to try this one, because this is a good one that also struck a nerve with me. I thought it was a nice way to connect with your dreaming mind. And as you mentioned, you carve Hypnos into the candle, and then again you drink a large glass of water, and then you say the words, "Hail Hypnos, I call you from the outer edge of infinity." I love that. That's, again, it's an invitation for friendship.
Well, all magicians have to be poets.
I have a question. What do you think of orbs?
Meaning discarnate energy that appears in a spherical form?
Yes.
I don't have a theory. I am not dismissive of that, because I've seen them a few times. I have no idea if it is a discarnate being, a little piece of plasma energy, something that my brain is generating. But there are occasionally moments where the world, as we're taught to perceive it, gets a little loose, and you can see a little more of things. An old acquaintance of mine, John Keel, had a theory that there's a tremendous amount of energy that we'd never get to see except under very odd circumstances, and that because we're not prepared, what we see comes out very, very oddly. I'll give you an example. If an ancient Egyptian saw a bolt of lightning in a dream, he would immediately associate that with the god Set, because Set is the god of lightning. And it has a whole set of meanings he'd be sure of. If we see a bolt of lightning, well, I don't know, maybe we think of Thor because we read Marvel comics. Maybe we think of science. Maybe we think it's Jehovah being in a bad mood. We don't have an agreed-upon set of meanings. So something as normal as that we can't agree on. How are we going to agree then on a spiritual manifestation? You know, if you and I and 2 or 3 of your more gifted listeners right now, you know, if we went to the right place at the right time, we would see something. You know,
well, I was asking because I see them all the time, and I actually take pictures of them. I even have what I call cross orbs, a circle with a cross in the middle of it. And I know you've lived and studied magic, and I was wondering if that was within that realm of any of your understanding with orbs. Orbs are around me quite a bit.
You know, this is an example of either hidden parts of yourself communicating to you, a hidden phenomena communicating to you. You know, because I don't think that things like that tend to be just random. I don't think it's just noise of the universe. You know, the thing I would be looking for you is, what do they tell you? When do they show up?
Yes, they show up quite often. You know, I mean lots. I've got hundreds of pictures of them, and that I just see the sparks, or I'll actually see the orb, and I'll start snapping pictures, and I've got thousands of them all together, all in all these crosses, at nighttime, in the daytime, everywhere. And I did do some research of the symbol of a cross in an orb, and it's supposed to be one of the oldest symbols there is that I've researched and found out. So, and I've also heard it was the creator or creation. So, and I do feel energy around it.
You know, I mean, symbolically, if you take a circle and you divide it into 4 quarters, that is a great image of the cosmos, right? Because that's you standing at the middle of north, east, south, and west with the round world around you.
Right, and you see them that way.
And then, of course, Jung would tell you that is your psyche reflecting back to you its wholeness.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, this great totality that you have, even though you're just getting a little bit of that totality at any given moment. You know, if anything, I would first begin to think of that as a sign saying, I am bigger and more mysterious than I know, which is not, if you interpret it correctly, something to build up your ego about. It's actually should be something that's kind of humbling.
Yeah, that would be very humbling and also huge. I mean, that would be huge to me. I don't know. It's like wide open question, and I'm still in search of, and they're still everywhere. And I do try to ask different people about it because I like to find out any knowledge or understanding they may have of it. So I wanted to share that with you and ask, and thank you.
Okay, I'm glad. I hope that helps. And of course, I asked them.
Yes. Oh, I have asked, and they've come in forms. I've got pictures of them where an orb is you can see it rising up, and it's an angel. It's an actual angel. You see the white angel with the blue rings.
Face. You can see little eyes. Some of these pictures that Becky has are so amazing and powerful. So it is a great mystery. It is a great mystery.
Yes. I'm still in search of. Yes.
Another mystery
I want
of your
the whole
legacy.
answer.
Oh, it's just endless, my God. It is.
It sure is. Yes.
Don, I have a question for you because this keeps interfering with our session tonight, and I keep getting communications from the other side. What was it that Aleister had to do with the color blue? Do you know? Because the blue color is coming in so strong. Was that something that he used in magic more so than anything else? I mean, is it blue ray, or I don't know enough about him or this to even begin to maybe even ask the question properly.
Yeah. In the symbolism that he used, which derives from the Golden Dawn, blue is the sign of the goddess Nuit. Nuit is the universe herself. Now, for the Egyptians, the sky goddess Nuit was this big, beautiful, naked woman arched above the sky. Now, most societies have Father Sky and Mother Earth, but not the Egyptians. The Egyptians had Father Earth, Geb, and Mother Sky, Nuit. Nuit gives birth to the sun every day. Nuit is the all and everything. It is the place where you can grow. It's a place where you'll develop your will. So for Crowley, blue, particularly dark blue, was a sign of great spirituality. It is a sign of, well, let me explain it to you this way. Go out some night on a very, very starry night. Lay on the ground and look at the stars. And I'll give you two things to think about. First, think about how very, very, very small you are in comparison to the huge cosmos. Then, think how very huge you are that you can put that whole cosmos in your mind. Nuit is found at both of those extremes. At the self so great it apprehends the universe, or in the self so small it sees the wonder of the universe all around it.
This is beautiful, mind-boggling. Put it mildly. Yes, I mean these are fantastic questions to ask when you're looking at the sky. And I've been to Egypt and I've seen the drawings and the paintings on the ceilings of this goddess, and all in dark blue with the stars. And it's quite remarkable to stand in a room and see all of this painted so completely. But the other thing that I'm being shown is hands. Now, I know hands in Egypt were very important also, but something about Crowley and hands, and it's almost like he could use his hands almost to open people's minds, is the best way I can describe what I'm seeing right now. But there is something about hands, that hands and magic, and are hands considered, I'm sure there's a lot of different things in magic that are considered important, but there is something that he's showing me right now about hands, his hands, and opening minds. Does that make any sense to you?
Well, one of the things that's very important, magic is not philosophy. You know, a philosopher can think about the universe, about ethics, about aesthetics. A magician has to do. A magician has to experiment and shape. And in all magical traditions, there are signs you learn by manipulating your hands to symbolize things.
Oh, okay.
And it's not the symbol. It's the fact that you do this with intent. You're going to communicate with your whole body. Think how different it would be if, opposed to just saying, oh, I'm going to go pray to the sun god when he comes up in the morning. What if you go stand facing the east, raise your arms on both sides, your hands up above that so you're like the rays of the sun. Hold that position, which would not be easy, even for a few minutes, and say something to the sun god. By incarnating our magic, by making our magic come into our body, we experience it in a deep and real way. And, of course, the easiest thing for us to manipulate is our hands. In the Indian systems, the yogic systems, you have what are called mudras, the sacred gestures. Now, you may have seen that in temple dancing.
Yes.
You've ever seen like a Balinese temple dancer? And if not, go to YouTube, type in Balinese temple dancer. There she is. Each of the hand gestures reflects an archetype. much as a tarot card might reflect an archetype or a rune or a hexagram with the I Ching. But there they are. They're in your body. You can feel them. Now, in Christianity, they're kind of limited. You can put your hands together in prayer. You cross yourself. Okay, that's about it. Mm-hmm. In love relationships, one of the first things you know, right, is that moment of holding hands with the beloved. That's seen as, a certain very low barrier, but a certain barrier that you cross.
Well, it's interesting because what I'm understanding from what you're saying and also what he's showing me is this total embodiment of magic because, when I first took a look at all of this stuff, and I've looked at this through the years many times, I feel overwhelmed. It's like, I can never wrap my mind around. There's too much to learn. It's like all these different symbols and all these different steps and just, forget it. But now what I'm understanding is it's not about that so much as it is about the embodiment of magic.
Well, magic is a way of knowing the world. It's not a way for everybody. I am not one of those people who says, you should all go learn magic. No, I think most people should stay the heck away from it. But if, in fact, it is a way that you know the world, you should find it out. There are truth processes. Or truth process in philosophy is something you do that lets you experience truth. Here's some of them. Love is a truth process. As you go through the experience of love, you learn about yourself, you learn about others, but what you learn is going to be different than what I learn. Even two people in the same relationship will learn different things in love. Politics is a truth process. When you're trying to do something in politics, you learn a lot about human nature. Now, in America, we pay attention to the ugly, bad side, but there's the good side, too. Politics used to be a very noble endeavor. Look at Thomas Jefferson.
Oh, yeah.
Science is a truth process with very strict rules, and that will teach you a lot about the cosmos, about the objective universe. Magic will teach you about how your subjective universe interacts with the objective universe. And if you're born to this, if you are touched of this, whatever you perceive as a system will teach you certain things. I don't care if you're doing, hoodoo root work or you're a northern rune magician. This is going to teach you things, and it's a lifestyle. It affects what you listen to, what you eat, who you spend your time with. There's a great magical community in the world. Now, we don't all get along by any means, but, there is an entire place that there's exchange that way. Right now, all of your listeners are choosing to listen to this show rather than watch something on TV, other than reading a book, other than taking a walk in the dark. Because this, for them, this moment we're sharing, this is a magical moment, obviously. It's about a way of knowing. And ways of knowing take your body, your mind, your heart, and your soul. All four levels of being are involved in a magical act.
Well, that's beautiful, and I understand so much more now having shared this time with you tonight, Don. Thank you so much. This has been just a remarkable evening of wisdom. That's the way I can say it. So for our listeners, so much for having me. Pardon me?
I said, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yes. It's a pleasure, and I hope you'll come back and we can talk about more things. There's just, I can tell you have lots more to share with us, and we would love to hear more. And again, for all of our listeners, Don's most recent book is Overthrowing the Old Gods, Aleister Crowley and the Book of the Law, and it is available on Amazon.com. So, Don, thanks so much. We've gone over time with you because we just we're fascinated. What can I tell you?
Yes.
It's been a great couple of hours. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. You were such gracious host. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Oh, good. Well, then we'll be happy to have you come back and for your next book or any other topic, or if you're ever going to be talking about dreams, one of our favorite things here on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And everybody stay tuned because Becky has a message for one of our listeners. Thanks again, Don.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yes, I have a message tonight. Yes.
Go for it.
Frankie, your message is accept second option, 5 months, lavender light. Niyasia lariasutuka, kakushimia hiete, lai tudushu lariusu, onkumaha yete, shushututukumaye, la lariasiti ane, okuya ishiate, shuchutunuma ha, la tiata Frankie. We are with you. There's your message, Frankie. I hope to hear from you. You received your message, and let us know. Write to us.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from all of our listeners, comments, questions, suggestions for guests. And thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been a remarkable evening of great information from Don Webb. And Becky, I don't know. I hate to end these shows because they're always so much fun, but
I know.
It
was a fascinating show.
It was. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back next week, so be sure to join us 9 to 11 Saturday night. Many blessings, everyone.
Night, Patricia.
Good night, Becky.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for another radio adventure with Supernatural.